This is Tech number 913960 with a video in relation to the game War Thunder. The area of focus is going to be basic to advanced foundations within the game. So let's get right to it. The first area that I want to attack is going to be in-game training features that will allow you to perfect your ability to let alone maneuver the craft. You could also compete against the bots that are involved. And with that speaking, I wish they would have made the so-called veteran level bots a lot harder than they are, so that it'll give you a fighting chance against these great online players. Offset from that, first area that you can go to is the so-called research area. I'm only dealing with the aviation aspect of it. That's the only area that I have focused on. I am pretty new at the game as well. When you go into research and you choose, say for instance, an aircraft that you do not own yet, such as this one right here, you do have the ability to select a test flight scenario. It will only give you one test flight option within it that you could run, and that will at least give you an idea if you like the craft and if you feel it's worthy to possibly place it within your inventory. Offset from that, when you do start establishing aircraft within your hangar, in which I have several of them here, and you go to the same foundation of test flight, you will have the ability to choose multiple types of scenarios, and it is suggested that you choose the head-to-head combat so that you could perfect your ability, let alone at the utilization of the craft and its features, but also test your try to take out the bots that are involved, wishing they were harder, as stated. So that's one area right there as far as in-game training procedures that are available. The next section is going to be under battles. Once you go into battles, you can choose custom battles. Custom battles are really good. When you enter into that, you could join battles that are created by online other players and try to compete. But it is also suggested that you go to so-called create a session of your own, in which you could choose bots only. And when you do that, you could also change the ranking of the caliber of the enemy crafts that are involved, whether it be aircraft or vehicles or whatever it may be, increasing them anywhere from rank number 1 to rank number 7, I believe, is the higher degree. World War, I haven't tried that yet, but you have in-game tutorials, which I believe are mandatory before you could actually step into procedures within the game scenarios as well. Single missions are really good. You'll find that that would be another good training aspect. When you go in there, majority of the missions I've tried so far locks me up to a certain aircraft within, as opposed to ones of my choice. And then the dynamic campaigns and historical campaigns are very good in-game training procedures as well. So with that information in place, that's going to be covering the area of in-game training abilities. And let's go ahead and continue to go from basic to advanced scenarios. Stand by. Okay, in the next section here, I want to show some critical features in regards to on-screen displays that we have to our advantage. In the upper left-hand corner, we have our gauges, which are super critical to always be looking at them and paying attention to the critical foundations in regards to our throttling, our speed, our altitude, and weapons. Many times during games, as you're playing and you're making maneuvers within the game, you accidentally decelerate, causing yourself, let alone to possibly stall out, let alone to be within already a battle confrontation and not having the equivalent amount of speed and so on and velocity to even compete. You wind up getting killed. Another thing is you also stall out, and let alone that, when you decrease your speed to a certain ratio, even though it's not stalling, you're going to slow up your cursor configuration in order for targeting and steering and things to that effect as well. So critical point right there, upper left hand corner. The upper right hand corner has our mini map, and that's where I'm going to focus a lot of attention here in regards to it. Okay. Obviously, we have the outer ring that's going to show us our point and direction in a compass, so-called foundation. We have north, south, east, and west. And then we have the inner ring, which actually starts the contours of the mini-map, the true foundations, into dead center, which is your location. You have the cone that appears, showing your field of view. We have to build a foundation in regards to understanding enemy locations on the mini-map or enemy presence on the mini-map in relation to distance, okay, relativity. And the way that it works is it works on what my terminology, I like to use it as an out foundation. meaning that an enemy that penetrates in and becomes visible on the contours, the outer skirts of the minimap, once becoming visible within it, is at a distance of 5.00 kilometers away from me. Okay? Once they break the contour of the external portion of the minimap. And as they are approaching me, I base it on a full out, 3/4 out, half out, quarter out scenario. And the way that the distance via out scenario is rated, it's that once they penetrate in, which is full out, they are at 5.00 kilometers out away from me. Once they get to 3/4 towards dead center, which is my location, they are at 4.00 kilometers away. When they get to half out of dead center, my location, they are going to be at 3.00 kilometers away. When they get to 1/4 out, they are going to be at 2.00 kilometers away from me. And then obviously anything within, they're going to be tighter than that. Now it's really important to understand that, offset from what's going to be discussed in segments to come, is that the true targeting of distance of whether it be a land-based target or an aircraft in this case is going to be between 0.80 kilometers out and 0.70 kilometers away. So you have to be understanding that that's going to be your best attack point, and you must be prepared to engage at that ratio. By using the mini-map, you'll know the general vicinity, and knowing that which is really going to help you on your turning aspect and maneuvering ability. Now I'm going to prove that as well here. I'm going to have a splice and I'm going to approach a land-based target that I have to actually confirm exactly what I was talking about here in slow motion. You will be able to see it. Now what happens is larger structures that are on the map, such as ships and heavy tanks, will immediately be on the mini-map area contour, even though they might be further than 5.00 kilometers out. Right now I have a small vehicle which is invisible to sighting, and I do target it shortly here, in which it initiates very close to a 7 meter out scenario. But as I am approaching right here, and you can see it on the mini-map because it is targeted, the true penetration that's going to come into the mini-map here begins at 5.00 kilometers away from the targeting, okay, from actual mini-map penetration, okay, which is actually occurring right there. Okay. Now as we get closer in slow motion to the target, and we reach an area of 4.00 kilometers, the enemy is going to be 3/4 out from dead center in my location. And as I continue to penetrate deeper in towards the target for engagement, you can see when we hit half, we're going to be at 3.00 kilometers away. And when we get closer and we hit 1/4 out, we're going to be at 2.00 kilometers away. Now this is really important because it gives you a good idea about turning to engage the target. Now obviously if the target is following you, it's another aircraft, it's probably going to be a little tricky on that one. But should you have some kind of freedom and spacing between you two as you're going along, you could actually make a successful turn and engage the target. In the first attempt right here, I believe I use a tracking enemy camera, which is what I call enemy tracker, which is the L2 button on my button configuration. It is the default button, to actually begin my turn at 1/4 out, so that I could actually make the full maneuver in enemy tracker and still have enough time to fully engage that target and unleash a very good arsenal upon it. So you can see what I call that, I label I label 1/4 out, which is 2.00 kilometers, the safe zone. It's the safe zone for turning and trying to get maneuvers within the game. There is no doubt about it. I believe here also I may actually do a regular turn, freestyle turn, to show that it's still sufficient enough for me to engage the target, and which I do so. Alright, first one was enemy tracker, pulling me there. Now I'm just doing a freestyle turn, no tremendous roll, and you can see by the time I turn around and I get on that target, beginning my turn ratio at 1/4 out, 2.00 kilometers, I have enough time to engage this target and inflict a serious amount of damage, let alone possibly take it out. And I did want to show that. It's really critical to understand that foundation in regards to the mini-map. Establishing some kind of foundation in regards to visualization of the enemy on the mini-map and understanding how far they are away from you. And with that information in place, we'll continue on. Stand by. The next area of focus is going to be on-screen displays that occur during true gameplay. In this case right here, in the upper left-hand corner, we have our gauges, our ammunition information, and also any information feed in regards to damage that has been suffered by my aircraft. In the upper right-hand corner, we have our mini-map and the foundations in regards to that, which was discussed and will be greater detailed in up-and-coming clips. And then on the bottom left-hand corner, we have our aircraft icon that shows damages that have occurred to the craft, giving us a heads up on what we should do, the so-called favor engagements that are going to be encountered after the fact. Also down on that area on the lower left-hand corner, we have our mission goals, in which in this case right here, I am required to shoot down 12 aircraft to complete the mission. So I want to get that point across before I go deeper in, and I also want to include the fact that we have our cursor foundation, which is our the aiming cursor, steering cursor, my terminology, which is the larger circle, and then we have our crosshair foundation and cursor, which is going to be the gunner targeting. Now as I maneuver the aircraft, you can see it's always going to take a little bit of time when I am maneuvering other than straight forward for the gunner to catch up to the aiming steering cursor. Okay, so you have to be aware of that, and also, you know, be ready to time it. You don't want to be wasting your ammunition firing when you are really online, and in true battle when you are targeting, especially moving targets such as aircraft. The primary goal is to get the gunner crosshairs on the enemy indicator that will appear, which I call the targeting indicator. And with that information in place, before I even leave again, I do want to include the fact that you can change the color of the aiming steering cursor, which is the larger circle, and you could also change the foundations of the crosshairs as well. And the way that you would do that, which can be done in-game process, such as what I'm showing here, is by going to options and then selecting air battle settings. When you go to air battle settings, you have the ability to change the crosshair color of the aircraft, and you also have the ability to change the crosshair aircraft, the so-called configuration of the gunner targeting. Okay? And also, as far as color is concerned, you could also make an adjustment in battle interface. And when you go into battle interface, you could actually make adjustments on different color configurations that are set up. The one I did change offset from default is going to be the enemy nameplate colors, which I changed to purple instead of the default, which I believe was red. And with that information in place, we're going to go ahead and move along to the next subject. Stand by. So again, enemy indicators. As you can see, red dots will appear surrounding certain targets, even though they're not actually locked onto yet, such as the ships down below and the enemies that are approaching directly ahead as far as the aircraft is concerned. And you can see that the ships down below are within a 5.00 kilometer ratio away from me, whereas the aircraft that are approaching in the squadron ahead are not. They haven't penetrated the mini-map yet. And if I go ahead and I use X to target one of the enemies, what happens is, and I am getting hit by flak, which is good because it's amazing. Watch, I'm going to fly through this whole squadron, and it's the ships that hit me with flak or whatever. These guys, they probably won't even touch me. They probably won't even touch me, and I'm amazed at that in regards to so-called veteran gameplay. There's just no doubt in the world that, they perform at the level that they do in a so-called veteran category. They should actually have destroyed me, and I'm not happy with that. I think you get more beneficial aspect in regards to possibly custom battles and create a scenario and choose a high-ranking craft so that at least you get some true competition in regards to it. Better thing to do is use this more so for targeting as opposed to anything else, because the veteran scenario doesn't seem to be that great. Alright, anyway, I'm just trying to work my way out a little bit. I'll let them hit me if they do, they do. And let me give some information, okay? The area of focus, as stated, is going to be enemy indicators. We have enemy indicators that appear at 2 locations offset from anybody in my screen vicinity, with my vantage point. One is going to be, of course, the mini-map and the information and the way we should use it, which is on the areas prior to understand relativity in regards to distance and appearance on the mini-map in its own. The next is we're going to have enemy indicators that appear along the contours of the screen. As you can see, we have so many planes that are flying around and ships and things to that effect as well, that they will be indicated on the contours of the screen should they not be in my direct vantage. Should they be in my view as far as my ratio that I could see on screen, they will run along the contour of the screen. And the information in regards to enemy indicators that appear on the contours is the fact that the ones that are further away would be more vague in their coloration, whereas the ones that would be closest to me will actually be of a brighter color. The indicators that appear along the contours are not going to tell me the directional flow of the enemy. They're only going to give me a general location feed, okay? So you can see the majority of the enemies right here are to my left. So I would make judgment using that information along with the mini-map on which way I want to maneuver my plane to begin engagement. And as I'm traveling out, I have now pushed all of those enemies definitely beyond the 5.00 kilometer ratio. So I just want to mention that as well. Now, as I begin to maneuver my way, I still have a lock on that fighter right there. And I get my information feed. I get the enemy icon, the information about the plane, the amount of kilometers out, and things to that effect as well. If you're playing online players, you'll see their nameplate also. But you have to understand, even though I have that individual targeted, I can actually target anybody else if I want to just by pressing X and choosing individuals. But more importantly, the better way to do it is to hold X, okay, which is your locking foundation, target locking. When you're holding X down, all you need to do is pan the area. And when you pan the area, you're going to get information feed in regards to anybody that you cross in Centrigistics. And once you do that, you would choose the target that's right for you. So that's a super critical point in regards to true gameplay. You don't want to be pressing X repeatedly to see targets. What you want to do is press and hold X and just pan the area and scan through the enemy targets to choose the best one for you. All right? Once you release it now, you'll remain locked on the last target that was represented by that feature. The next thing is, as we approach the enemy, we are going to get the gun targeting indicator to appear. That's my terminology, which is going to be the square box that you should actually be aiming towards to try to take out the enemy. I call it the targeting indicator. The icon of the enemy and so on, that would be the enemy indicator. But the box that's going to appear once we are within firing range of our weapons, which is 0.75 kilometers out, is going to be the targeting indicator, okay? Which is what we want our gunners to be firing on. So as I approach enemies here, like I said, what I haven't said but I want to include is the fact that even though I'm highlighted on that fighter, I could easily get Centrigistics to another target as long as they're within the 0.75 kilometer out scenario, and I will get the information on that target, and I will show that. All right, so let me go ahead and turn around, get more into an area where I can visualize these aircraft. I still have that target locked. See that guy, as he passed me, information was given on that target that just flew by. See, information, let alone the targeting indicator that appeared. There was also information. See, information, I can get it. And what happens is I could change my locked target based on that, should I feel that that's a better target for me to be engaging in. So I'm getting information on these targets that are passing here without even locking onto them. Just the fact that my Centrigistic cursor is within vicinity, and let alone that, they are within firing range. So this guy's not targeted, this guy down below. But if I can get lucky enough to get it close, like this guy here, I'm going to get information. And I could easily change him to my locked target by pressing X. If I don't do that, and I use, say, tracking enemy camera, which is L2 default, it's going to swing me back to the target I originally had. Super critical during gameplay. You have to be aware of that. Alright, continuing on, enemy indicators. As we're getting close to enemies and they become within firing range of the weapons that I have, which is always, I believe, no matter what weapons, 0.75 kilometers out, I am going to trip the gunner target indicator, which is that square box right there. And then I would begin to engage. Now, you must perfect your ability to lead your target, leading your target properly. And it's not necessarily leading ahead of the gunner target indicator. It might be right on the gunner target indicator, or it might be actually even in between the target indicator and the enemy themselves. It depends primarily on the distance of the target out from you, okay? The further they are away, you definitely want to be leading the target indicator box, and then the closer that they are to you, you would make adjustments accordingly. And the way that I feel, which I will put on screen, the best way to look at it is that if the target is at 0.75 kilometers out, then you want to be leading the target indicator box. If the target is within 0.50 kilometers out, you want to aim right on the gunner target indicator. And then if the enemy is within anywhere below 35 kilometers and down to very close, you could aim between the gunner target indicator, which is the square box, and the enemy themselves. It's always good to put yourself on the gunner target or lead it. Those would be the better of the two. And should it be too quick of action to really determine, it would always be better to lead the target, to have the greater amount of ammunition strike the target during engagement. Now with that information in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a snapshot image where I could actually highlight these features to give additional information in regards to the enemy targeting scenario. Stand by. Okay, here I had to lay out a series of consecutive snapshots in order to get the audio portion off, so there will be intermissions in between. However, these are critical key elements right here, these 3 points in regards to the target indicator, the enemy track line, and the enemy indicator. Targeting indicator is, of course, where we want our gunner crosshairs to be relating to. The enemy track line is a 3-dot span scenario between the targeting indicator and the enemy indicator. And of course, at last, the enemy indicator, which shows the icon of the enemy nameplate, information in regards to the craft, and also the distance out. That information in place, we're going to take this information and carry it over into gameplay. Stand by. Okay, here it is. We're going to step into battle interface. Before we get into aircraft battle, I do want to explain a feature that's built in the game system, which is called Tracking Camera Enemy. It's the default setting is L2. This is a real nice feature in the game. However, when I do watch these great instructors on YouTube videos and things to that effect as well, the majority, if not all of the takeouts are actually in freestyle mode. Freestyle mode's a little tricky because it's actually, because of the playability in the gunner cursor and things to that effect, it makes it a little bit more difficult to time your enemy, whereas the tracking camera enemy / enemy tracker that's built in the game does assist and make it a little bit easier because it puts a little bit of tightness on the movement of the crosshairs. So I do want to explain that before I get into battle because I like to use it. Actually what happens is, and the way that it works is that once you target an enemy and you hit L2, the system itself is going to do a maneuver that it feels is best to get on the target. This may actually be the incorrect maneuver, and a lot of times enemy tracker is going to cause you to crash. So you have to really be aware of that. A good thing to try to do in relation to using enemy tracker is always activate it while you're pitching up. and unless you're at a real high altitude. And the reason being is that should it be taking you into a maneuver that is incorrect or downward and you're very close to the ground, you could actually save yourself by breaking the enemy tracker, releasing it, and using your control sticks to offset your line of flight. Now, when it comes to enemy tracker, I have the medium tank targeted right here, so when I go ahead and I hit that without even holding anything, it's going to try to put me on what it considers to be the best move and maneuver to get me on the target. And should I like that, I will go ahead and complete the enemy tracker. If not, I could easily release it and change it as well. As a lot of times that's good because it puts abruptions in your movement that actually is pretty good in dogfight scenarios as well, to press and release. And you want to master your ability to do that. Offset from that, when I'm using enemy tracker, you have to understand that once I hit that L2 button, default setting, the steering cursor, aiming cursor, the circle itself, is going to do the best it can to lock onto the target. Sometimes it gets there, sometimes it delays. So before you actually release the L2 button and let enemy tracker take its role, should you not want to break the foundation, you want to confirm that the aiming steering cursor is on the target. I'm doing a maneuver here, hit it. It's on the target, so I could release it and let enemy tracker do the entire move, or actually I could take control and make a move of my own within it. When using enemy tracker, it's always good to assist the enemy tracker, such as, like I said, pitching up or pitching left and right, or even down, depending on the altitude and the maneuver that you're actually trying to perform, trying to get enemy tracker to actually assist you in it. So if I hit it right here, it's going to go on. The cursor got very close. I was good enough to release it. Then I would do the best I can. I could hit enemy tracker again to try to line it up and begin firing. I did want to show that, really critical. Enemy tracker, I like to use it. But like I said, most of the pros I see on YouTube and so on, they do not use that feature. They pretty much take them out freestyle. With that information in place, let's go ahead and address some aircraft and try to put this all together. Stand by. Okay, here it is. We're going to be engaging aircraft here, and the goal of the game is for me to take out 16 planes. Now, you do want to master your ability to understand certain foundations in regards to the game in relation to the flap scenario. If you have raised flaps, you're actually going to have a greater amount of speed, but you're going to have a wider turn ratio. If you have combat flaps, you're actually going to have a little bit of slower rate of speed, but a greater turn ratio, quicker turn. And then obviously your greatest amount of speed depreciation, let alone that, which I'm going to let these people pass me, is going to be by using landing flaps. And if you have your button configuration set up properly, you could easily initiate them during a battle scenario. Meaning that in my case scenario, I had put them actually on triangle and circle, and I would easily be able to drop landing flaps if I wanted to by pressing a button scenario such as this right here, in which I would drop my gear, change the landing flaps, and put the gear right back up again. Now the gear is up, it didn't even really come out, but I did initiate landing flaps, which will allow me to make the sharpest turns and also depreciate the greatest amount of speed. So I want to show that. I'm going to put the flaps back up to raised and try to take out the planes necessary. I got hit a little bit by flak there from the ships. The thing you have to understand is the foundations that were mentioned. Try to put it all together. I'm getting hit by the ships right here, but I'm still maneuverable. I'm not damaged too badly. And that's the fact that whenever we cross an enemy, whether targeted or not, we are going to, and Centrigistics is on the enemy themselves, as well as them being within range, which is 0.75 kilometers out. We are going to see the information on that target. And even if we have a target locked, which I have a target locked right now, which is that guy right there, I could easily get information on other targets as long as they're within range by just getting close to them and highlighting them. Once I get close to them as far as Centrigistics, I could easily change my mind from the locked target to a possible relock on a better target for execution. See? So even though I have that guy, I can get information on the other one as well. I don't know if that was an ally. Just by getting Centrigistics close, as long as I am within the range of my weapons, such as that guy right there, see? He's not the targeted enemy, but he's an enemy nevertheless within range of my weapons, so I may choose to actually engage that enemy instead. The next thing is if you press and hold X, you're going to scan, which is a maneuver, procedure you should be doing. You have the ability to scan around and find the different targets and then make the choice on which one you feel is best. See, I'm holding X right now, so it's giving me the ability to look at all of these targets and make a choice on which one I want to attack. Once I release it, it's going to remain on the last targeted enemy. Okay, so I wanted to show that. That guy is not my targeted enemy, but I could easily make him my targeted enemy by pressing X. Once I do that, I actually target him. So I wanted to show that. Really critical. That's really important. That's how you could determine the better plane and enemy to address. When it comes to engaging an enemy, whether it be breaking off the engagement or fully engaging and taking the target out, right after you take the target out, you want to immediately press X to try to trip the enemy indicator and show an enemy within the field of view. And sometimes you'd be amazed that it'll actually lock onto an enemy that you didn't even see, or totally change your mind on the procedure that you were going to try to execute because there was a better target involved. So if I go ahead and I shoot at this guy leading that target right there, and then come around, I'll give him a little space. And I don't like how close I am, so I'll start to maneuver this way, and I'll use the enemy tracker to see what kind of maneuver it thinks is good. I'll break it right there because I like that area it put me in, and then I'll try to see it. Very hard to see the cursor on the water. Very hard to see the cursor against the water bed as far as my color setup and just the fact that I play on a big screen TV, which definitely hurts. Anyway, take your time. Try to take out the enemy, immediately hit X. See how I was right on the next guy? So what happens is I'll decide I'm a little too close, I'll make a maneuver, I'll go this way. He's my lock guy, but I could easily break off this attack and look for someone else. Now as I come around and steer down, see if I can see the cursor, a little hard to see. Try to track it out, get in line, fire, I got a hit, come around, break it this way. See where enemy tracker takes me. If I like it, I'll run it. If not, I'll break it. On this one here, it looks pretty good. See if we can get around on him. Really wish I could see that icon a little bit better. Go ahead and shoot. Try to take him out. Shooting. All right. And definite hits on the guy, so he's really weak. Anybody ahead of me? No. I broke the lock on that enemy. I got to admit it. All right, so I'm going to turn him out, see if I can relock him. As I'm doing that, I'm going to check. He is hurt to a point he might be going down from the damage that I inflicted, and he's dead. All right, hit X, there is a destroyer, I don't want that. Swing back around. Now another critical point as I'm going along trying to reference all of these pieces of material is you have to understand the foundations of the track line that appears between the target. I'm not going to shoot at him. That track line right there, 3-dot sequence between the targeting indicator and the enemy represents the speed foundation of the target. The further they're spanned apart from one another, the quicker that the aircraft is traveling. And you want to lead according to that foundation, meaning that if it's a far stretch between the targeting indicator and the enemy icon, which is the track line, they're traveling very fast, and it's good to get a good lead on the target before, as you begin to engage. If the span between the target indicator and the enemy icon is short, they're not really at a high rate of speed, then again, they could be actually facing you or going away from you, and it makes it even more tricky to gauge it. But should you have the ability, you could also get a foundation in regards to speed based on the track line of the enemy. So that guy's cascading up. Soon he'll become within a 0.75 kilometer distance where the enemy indicator and targeting indicator will appear, and the track line says he's going pretty quick. All right, and I would maybe make a move according to that rather than firing when the majority of my shots are not really going to land anyway. So as I'm coming around, now I can't really use the track line. I could just estimate it by visualization. Too close for encounter. Should I have destroyed him, there's a good chance I would have crashed into him after the encounter. I was locked on that enemy and it pulled me. Now that could be a downfall using tracking enemy, where I had an easier target directly ahead. Anyway, as I'm spinning around, talking always hurts, of course. Go ahead, prepare for the lead of this target, and there it is. So you go ahead and prepare for it. You do the best you can. Immediately hit X, see if somebody's around. Nobody was there, just the ships. Come back in, approach this squadron, and see what we could do. Use your mini map. There's an enemy down below here, somewhere, right there. Using the mini map, there he goes. I'm going to stay on him, swing around. I'm going to break it right there because that'll put me in a good line. All right, let me see what I want to do. Pitch a little high. All right, I'm on a good speed. Always pay attention to your speed. All right, I'm a little too close to this guy, but I'm still willing to possibly engage. But if I engage this guy and I wind up taking him out, definitely want to make an abrupt maneuver to get away from that guy. I got him, he destroyed him. He was hurt enough where he crashed. But you're really taking a chance when you're trying to fire at an enemy at that close range of crashing into the enemy after the kill. So I'm looking at both of these guys, trying to choose which one I like best. I'm going to choose that guy, of course. So when I get on him, I'm going to try to track him. Now, a lot of times, enemy tracker can't beat the enemy. So what you have to do is press and release, master your ability. It'll allow your cursor to get online quicker as you reestablish the engagement. There he goes, hit X, there he is up there. Okay, telling me that other enemy, there was a good chance I wouldn't even see him. And I made a major problem there. Actually, I'm damaged to enough to where I have no propulsion anymore. So before I go out, I would try to see if I can get any engagement. As a matter of fact, let me see if I could be lucky enough to get to a ship and just kamikaze the scenario here. And I still got 8 targets left to go. Like I said, the talking really hurts. But that is the scenario. As I mentioned, for one, whenever you take out an enemy, immediately you want to press X. You want to hit X and even hold X. Begin panning the area immediately. There's a target within your vicinity. You could see them immediately. You know, they'll be locked, and you could automatically, you know, capture a target that possibly would have been not in view. You may trigger a target that might be better than one that you thought you were going to steer after. The next thing is understand the foundations of the fact that even though you have an enemy targeted, wow, these ships are doing pretty good against me. I love it. That's what I want. That's what I want. A veteran, I want to be hurt. I want these guys to take me out. You know, these guys are not doing their job. You know, X immediately. There's the other guy. I saw him behind the smoke. I'm hit. Look at the leaks, but I'm still good. I might be able to complete out the scenario with this damage right here. X immediately. Ooh. It took me on this guy. What do I think? I think I got an enemy behind me. Use the mini-map. But I'm willing to do it. X again. There's a destroyer. I don't want that. Come around. Let's see what's going on. Try to lock an enemy. Destroyer. Don't want it. Destroyer. There was a target. Right there they are down there. So let's go ahead and enemy tracker. Alright. And then hold X and look at them. See which one's the better one. Make a choice. There's another guy over there. He's a lone guy, so I'm going to go for him. Alright, anyway, accelerate. That was a big mistake where no, I was damaged. I thought I might have decelerated. A lot of times what happens is you'll accidentally decelerate, not knowing it when you're doing rolling maneuvers because your foundations are on the same control stick. Be aware of that. Whenever you're doing a roll, you might want to be pressing more likely a so-called 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock position in order to not decelerate. Hit X immediately. I got the locks on the ships. I don't want them. Come around, use the mini-map. See what you got. Got that guy. Go ahead and lock them. There's 2 of them. There's that guy and that guy. I'm going to take the back guy. That's who I want to stay on, the back guy. Now I'm going to switch it. I'm going to take the other guy. This guy here, and because I was getting too close to the guy in the back. Now I know the other guy's behind me, so I'm going to swing around. I'm going to hold X as I'm panning along here to get an immediate trip. There he is, and he's close, so I'm going to take a shot at him, but I know I wasn't going to have a good line. Use enemy tracker. I like that part of enemy tracker right there for the move. See if I can get on and come from behind. Still too close. So I'm going to steer this way. I'm going to use enemy tracker to take me on this direction. I'm going to turn around, try to get ready. Got good distance. See if we can set him up. You see it? Very vague. Very hard to see that control, that crosshair. There it is. Got a hit. I think I damaged him too much when I'm just freestyle after him. Enemy tracker again. Let the cursor come online, give it time. There it is. And begin to fire. Got the hit. X immediately. They're my guys. There's another guy. Got him. X. And enemy tracker is really slow. Why? Because I decelerated. My speed is no good. Accident. Plus I'm talking. Anyway, I have a little bit of speed. Go ahead and fire, take him out, hit the next guy, there he is, get some speed, damage craft, come out here, plan on it, enemy tracker, is it going to be able to catch him? No, release, enemy tracker again, can it catch him? No, release, enemy tracker again, can it catch him? Yes it can, yes it can, okay, lead it right, my plane is damaged, what do I need? Is that it? That's it. Hey man, I did the best I can. You know, all the talking definitely hurt, but hopefully I got all those points across as far as putting it together. That information in place, if anybody sees this and I decide to post it, good luck, good shooting, and sayonara. Tech number 913960, out.